Greeting you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Peace and love, family. I got my brother Ankhara here for episode 13, the Cosmic Key Maker. Introducing this brother, sharing my history with him is I was living out in Costa Rica um, a few years back, teaching teaching a brother about how to make the tensor tech. And we were living out in Uvita, and I remember there was one day we like synchronistically ran into each other, and I remember seeing you on Instagram prior, and I was like, oh man, this guy's works and next level. And I remember seeing you, and it was like, oh shit, like that's Ankara, like that's the man that makes the onks. And yeah, I was so stoked, and it was just a great moment. And then from there, we've been connected, and we have all these connections in our community, and very close brothers that I'm close with. Ankara's very close brothers, and I guess that makes us very close brothers. So yeah, we were just talking and invited him on the podcast, and we're gonna, start from maybe childhood, come into the recognition of our oneness with the creator, and then coming into how he started making these onks. And I'll obviously attach, all of his information in the bio and everything so you can see what we're talking about yourself. Um, so yeah, welcome, brother. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I just wanted to start out by, sharing my gratitude with you and with your followers, just for taking time to show up and be in the space and, build this community as you mentioned, and also, get more knowledgeability and get life experience, to help us become better as individuals, as family members, as community members, and really, assist this progression into the ancient future, So my name is Ankara Akeru. I am a breath physician, I guess you could call me. I am an ancient future technologist. Work with crystals, metals, and magnets to create spiritual and energetic devices. And my current line of work is really focused on breath and tapping into that endogenous DMT state, that multifaceted, multidimensional space where we can really go in and find the deeper answers to who we are and what our purpose is, and our connection with life itself. So that's a little bit about what I do. I'm super stoked to be here on the Moonas Magica podcast today, and I'm excited to share part of my story, and I trust that it will, have some sort of impact on your listeners. So thanks for having me, man.
Yes, of course, brother. Yeah, I guess as I mentioned, I like starting from however far back you decide, maybe where you grew up, and then how you how you had an awakening. I'm assuming that all of my brothers and sisters on the podcast have had some sort of spiritual awakening, or two or three of them, or many. And just curious of what your story is on how you woke up in this life, and kind of we can go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what played a big role in my transformation and my awakening, if you will. It did happen at an early age for me. I was still in high school. I was raised in a Christian household, here in Florida, and it was something that as I got older and being inside of that religion, it's it basically did a great job of implementing fear into my person, and I found myself in constant fear of like what I might be doing wrong or what sin I might be committing and things like that, even to the point of thinking maybe Jesus is in my closet watching me, you know. So yeah, for me, I really, was curious and seeking, something else out there, outside of Christianity, outside of Western thinking, and outside of the mainstream mind that I was sort of like, predicated on, if you will. And the two biggest teachers and the two biggest catalysts for my personal awakening was music and entheogens, plant teachers. And so my connection with these two were very synergistic in that evolution of my spirit and making that connection to ultimately my connection with God or Creator. So this came through a very powerful and potent LSD experience that I had. And basically, I had got to the point with Christianity where I was like, I'm done with this. I don't even really believe in God or any of this stuff. And I said, God, if you're real, you got to show me, like I want you to like show up in my life somehow.
Mm,
There needs to be something that is a literal sign for me to understand and know that God is real, right? So it came through this LSD experience, and basically, long story short, I went, as a teenager, in high school, I went to a New Year's Eve party, and basically at that party it was a segregated party with hippies and jocks. So of course I was in the in the hippie bunch, and then we had a group of a lot of like people that were into sports and things like that, and athletes, and um, so it was a very kind of as I said, segregated energy. And basically during this experience, I got a voice, if you will, intuition in my head, intuitive voice that spoke to me and said, "You need to leave this house now, right now, and go outside and breathe fresh air."
mm,
It was the breath. It's so interesting because I'm just now connecting these dots. This voice said, "Go outside and breathe fresh air."
mm,
So as I was leaving the house and exiting the front door, there was two young men that were in an altercation about removing their shoes. And so I left, went to a park, and while I was outside, I was looking at the sky and the stars. It was nighttime. I saw this fire in the sky, literally a massive fire that took up a third of the sky. And there was uh an indigenous elder, like a Native American man, behind his fire who stood up, and his face was brightly illuminated with neon colors. And he began to stand up around the fire and do this dance. And it was this sign that I was looking for.
mm,
You know, remember I said, show me, right? And so I had this whole vision. And after the vision ended, we went back to the house and found out that this small altercation had turned into an all-out brawl, and the whole house was in a fight, a massive fight. And literally, like, if I hadn't stepped out in that moment and that time, I would have been in there, throwing punches or getting beat up or whatever, but I would have been in the midst of this crazy fight, that I wasn't meant to be a part of. And because I listened to that intuition, I listened to that voice, this is a reminder to us. When we have that intuitive voice, because it speaks to you in a way that's like, it's not just a random voice in your head.
mm,
Something says to you, get up and go outside and breathe fresh air. you should probably listen to it, you know?
Mm,
And so that's how, sort of like the unfolding of my connection with Creator and in this deeply spiritual connection. So yeah, from there I just continued down my journey with working with plant medicine and cannabis and psilocybin mushrooms. Being a resident here in Florida State, we have it growing everywhere pretty much almost year round. So it's accessible. You can go out to a cow field and just pick your
wow.
mushrooms and bring them home for free. So
Mm,
as a teenager, this is what we did. And this was before any therapist. This was before, I mean, you had to order kits through High Times Magazine or something like that. And there
mhm.
was no knowledgeability or YouTube channels or, someone there to show you how to do it. It was like you ordered your kit from High Times Magazine and then just worked with what you had and did the best you could, And so that, yeah, that was really like the beginning of this journey into self and where I've gotten now.
Mm, amazing. How did you get into creating the keys, the ankhs, like from that position, and where did the journey go from now having this connection with the plant medicine? Uh, did that naturally flow into the creation of the ankhs?
Yeah, I mean, when you really tapped in, life is just flowing just like that, right?
Facts.
So many years later, I mentioned the connection with music, right?
Mm,
So that was what really, music was what did it for me. That was like my thing, how to really, find myself. Sorry, sorry, I got it. There's a call that came in there. Um, so basically, my connection with music, runs deep, and I am really into the music of the king, praises to the king,
mm,
Rastafari, right?
mm,
Reggae music. And I got connected with a group that's called Midnight. They're from St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. And when I found that music and the lyrics of Von Benjamin, it just blew my mind because this man is an absolute genius and his lyrics are so much deeper than yes I and oh, I love you baby and all this stuff. It was deeply entrenched in science, metaphysics, government, like all different topics across humanity, and he was able to weave these connections into the music. So I went to go see Von Benjamin at midnight at a show in Asheville, North Carolina. And at that time, I have been crafting things with my hands. I've always been, good with my hands and created art with my hands. So I had some collage art, I had some, jewelry and necklaces, and I was doing like some little wire wrapping with crystals and things, but
mm,
it was really nothing, compared to what I'm doing now. And in that concert, in that moment, a man walked in to the building and he was this tall, 6 foot something Rasta man, and he just came right up to my table and asked me, "Hey man, I know you don't know me, but I drove all the way here from South Carolina. I'm an artist as well and a crafter, and I brought my goods and I don't have anywhere to set up." And he was like, I'm just humbly asking you if you'd be willing to, share some space with me.
mm,
And, I looked at him and I'm very much run on a vibes, and the frequency. And I just got a really positive vibe from this guy. And I was like, yeah, man. Yes, go get your stuff. Here's half of the table. This is yours and this is mine. And so in that moment, I didn't realize, but well, I didn't realize it shows you how in life there's sometimes some very critical choice points.
mm,
In that moment, had I choose to say no, go find your own table, I would have never got the downloads. I would have never got the teachings. I would never be doing this work that I'm doing now.
Mm.
So because I was open to it and I was curious about what this man did and what he sold, I said, yes, go get your stuff set up right here. When he came back and he had this strap under his arm with a device, and he pulls it out and it's a crystal lung. He pulls this thing out, right? And he's like, check this out. And he puts it in my hand, right? And man, I'm telling you, when he put that thing in my hand, it just shifted the whole frequency. It was literally
Wow.
like a wave, an energetic wave that washed over my body from head to toe.
Wow.
Like, that tingly sensation you get where it's just like your whole body is vibrating.
Wow.
This washed over me, and I literally started to cry tears of joy and awe of
Wow.
like, what is this? Like, I didn't know what it was. I knew there was crystals in there and copper, but I didn't really fully understand what I was holding, but I just knew it was very, very potent, and it was something that I wanted in my life.
Mm.
So by the end of that show, we befriended each other. His name is Ross Naeem. I want to mention him on this. Infinite Treasures. Y'all
Mm.
check out Ross Naeem Infinite Treasures LLC. But we became friends in that at that concert, and I invited him to a future event in 3 weeks. And the next time I saw him at the second event, I said, "Hey, man, I want to be your apprentice, bro. Like, I don't know if you're open to teaching, but I'm open to learning, and I want to learn how to do this." So, just humble man said, "Yeah, go get your stuff. Let's start building." And in that 3 days, we put together an Ankh, and I started my path as an Ankh alchemist, essentially. So since that day until now, he and I have had a continued relationship, a friendship, a mentorship, and we have helped each other innovate our own work and our own craft as we've moved along, like creating a little different tweak or a new style or a new innovation, and then presenting that and being like, hey, look what I did.
Mm.
Then he goes back and does the next thing and like, oh yeah, check this out. So it was never a competition. It was like a friendly like compliment to each other, like how we could evolve the craft and continue to grow and expand. So the ones that you're seeing now, which is 18 years later, are not the ones that we were creating 18 years ago.
Mm.
So it's been a massive evolution of the work, and there's been many, many innovations over time. And this was interesting because I started doing this. This was around, I want to say, 2007, 2007-ish. Um, and so, I had no clue about tensor technology, about orgonite, about any of this stuff. Like I saw this and I literally felt it, and I was like, this is it. This is my thing, and this is what I'm doing.
Mm.
And I never stopped. I never stopped since then, bro. So that's where it's evolved into now. And this point is some of the work that you're seeing is literally the evolution of
Mm.
18 years of craftsmanship.
Wow. I was feeling that when you told me uh that wave. I was seeing like the visuals of that moment, and I feel that. It's interesting how do you think that it was the Ankh itself, the energy that was contained within the Ankh, or was it also part of who this brother was, like his auric field, and or also could be like that milestone moment in your incarnation of of that bliss, that gratitude, knowing like knowing this is part of your path, how these tools are part of your path. Because I can relate with the tensor, like there it wasn't that full wave, but there was that deep knowingness that this is the path forward, to become a creator of this technology. Yeah, I have questions on like to go more in depth with the
Hold,
arms.
hold on one second. Just I want to answer that because the first part of that question was important. I'm not sure if you were going to expound on that, but I wanted to, before you go forward, I want to connect those dots because it's
Yes.
important. And it's a synergy. The synergy is not just one energetic component separated from another. The synergy that I felt and that I experienced in that moment was the amplification of the combination of the crystals, the metals, and the magnets, as well as the innovative and artistic design and the literal, like the geometric design, the symbolic design
Mm-hmm.
of this piece. Handcrafted, that intention and that purpose that
Mm,
a person puts into their craft.
mm,
So when you're buying a painting or you're buying a piece of art, you aren't just buying, paint slapped on a canvas. You're buying like an aspect of this artist's soul, if you
mm,
will, an expression of this artist's soul. So it isn't just the crystals, which are potent by themselves. I'm sure if any of your listeners have worked with crystals, we're well aware of that energetic factor that they can be the amplifying tools, right?
mm,
When you take that and then you combine that with copper, now you have a conduit. You can, now that energy is transferred and carried, and not only is that energy traveling on that copper wire, it's traveling in a geometric design. It's
mm,
traveling in a sacred, symbolic, energetic pattern, which is the symbol of eternal life.
mm,
The balance of masculine and feminine energies is in this symbol. So you have that the energetic components of masculine, feminine, crystals. You've got the copper component, the conductor, and then you have the magnets, that magnetic charge. So you have the piezoelectricity of the crystals, which are being compressed upon by the copper, and there's heat being applied by your hand. Now you're generating a piezoelectric force, just like those tensor rings. When you place that tension on the two wires, it creates a piezoelectric, meaning that it's able to generate electricity from pressure.
mm.
So now we're applying pressure and heat to these crystals. They release their energetic charge. Okay.
Wow. Mm,
And then the magnets are repelling and attracting. So it's a powerful tool for manifestation, among other things, but particularly manifestation because that magnetic field that we create with these technologies is that field that is your auric field. You're enhancing your auric field by utilizing these magnets because we have this auric field is literally an electromagnetic field, and sometimes we get patches and holes. We get
mm,
leaks in this field. Now, that's some personal work that you get to do as well. But when you're working with a magnet, what it does is it amplifies your magnetic frequency, your magnetic charge, your magnetic field. So, what you're doing is you're basically helping, like, patch up some of those holes and charge up that auric field so that you are fully protected and nothing can come through that bubble of protection. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
You know exactly what you are repelling and keeping out of that bubble. A lot of times the magnets and manifesting people talk about what you're attracting, what they want to call in, and all this. They forget about what they don't want to call in and what they're repelling away from them. So, in a with working with magnets, it's equally important to know what you're magnetizing and calling in, and also what you're repelling and forcing out.
Um,
Right.
I hope.
So, these three components, the crystals, the magnets, and the metals, with the intention of the creator, we're talking about 10-time leap in a quantum leap in the energetic field.
What are some testimonials? What are like common reflections that you receive back from beings that have acquired these cosmic keys from you?
Oh man, it's it's been very diverse. As I mentioned, I've been working with this for 18 years, and I've realized now that I've made 500 plus ankhs
Mm,
that are out there in the world.
amazing.
So I've had my own personal experiences, and I've had testimonies of how these tools have impacted people's lives. And sometimes it could be like, a small example was, I met this young man at a concert where I was vending my ankhs.
Mm,
And when he walked in the door, he was about 10 feet away from my table, and he stopped, and he literally stopped dead in his tracks. I watched him as he walked by. He stopped and turned and looked at the table, and he was looking at one of the devices. And I saw his face. He was literally like in shock and awe, like kind of with his mouth dropped. And I'm just thinking, like, what's going on in this guy's head? So eventually he approaches the table and says, "Hey man, how much is this piece right here?" And I believe I could have named any price in the world, and he would have whipped his wallet out and paid it, because he goes, "Man, when I walked in this room, I literally heard an angel calling my name. I heard a voice from on high calling my name, and it was coming from over here at your table." And then I look over and I see this piece, and this is the one. And he's like, "This was literally speaking to me, to my soul."
wow.
And so it's that type of work. It's like each piece is created uniquely, just as a person is created uniquely and individual. No two are alike, so they're meant to resonate with your own personal frequency. And when I can get that alignment right, um it's very noticeable, because someone will hear their name calling from a distance. And so this is kind of, some of the work that, or some of the feedback that I've got, that, like, people have been able to tap into the angelic realms. I personally use them as, what I call blood cell phones.
Mm,
You got a blood cell, and then you got a cell phone. This is a blood cell phone. Meaning that you talk to the ancestors with this thing, right?
mm,
Your prayers, your connection to the higher beings, to the angels, to your ancestors, and all of that is amplified. So a small example is like, if you're on stage as a speaker and you're in a small coffee shop, you don't need a microphone. There's only 10 people in the crowd, and they can all hear you.
mm,
But when you're in an amphitheater and there's 10,000 people, you're going to need a tool of amplification. You need that microphone, right? When you speak into the mic, all the mic is doing is amplifying the signal to a larger field, or a greater capacity, right? So when we're utilizing these tools, what we're doing is, with the crystals and the coppers, we're amplifying, charging, and sending that signal out, and it reaches greater heights, if you will. It reaches into deeper spaces, if you will. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that they can be used, and I've had so many different testimonials of how this has really impacted. So I won't share them all, but I will say that for me, I've seen the reason why I kept going and kept doing this is because I got that feedback. I got those testimonials and were like, hey, don't stop doing what you're doing, because I could have given this up, 15 years ago and just moved on and been like, whatever. I wasn't making money from it.
Mm,
It was something that I loved to do, and I was selling them for dirt cheap, and I was getting by, but I never stopped because I got that continual feed forward from people who were like, yo, I don't know what this thing is, but don't stop doing this because these tools are important and
mm.
impactful. So that's what's really been a motivating factor for over the 20 years.
Wow, that's incredible, brother. That's super inspiring. Yeah, I'm so happy that I'm able to get more of an in-depth on the creation and your journey. Um, yeah, so I mean, so many things came to mind. Uh, I'm thinking maybe we could talk about this idea of the ancient future and how I know for myself being a creator of the sacred tensor ring, or we could call the light force, the light, the chi, the prana, the scalar, even potentially even calling it the kundalini or the shakti. It's all these different names for this etheric energy that is permeating all of existence. It's the animating principle. And I find like I've been sharing in my heart like new earth is now. New earth is now. And what I'm saying there is I'm saying that like we're back. Like I just released a song called New Earth Now, and it's all about like we're coming back. Like let's celebrate. Let's get out of this dullness. Let's get out of this illusion of that we're separate from each other, and let's serve. Let's, as painful as it might be to wake up, as sometimes like Ram Dass says suffering is grace. And it's that I've been teaching about this simultaneous, like suffering is the feeling of like the unconscious material coming up to the surface and the light, and being loved and being looked at and being understood as an aspect of the one infinite creator. But just to say that is that this new earth, like we're now coming back out of this cycle, and the truth is being revealed as it does back on this plane. And just to cycle it back before we continue, and I'll give you the stage here, is that the tensor ring was rediscovered. We know from there's pictures in the British Museum that I've been sent of the tensors that were made. I don't know when they're from, but we have tensor rings that are in the museum. And Slim Sperling, being the alchemist and the pure intentional being who wanted to serve the earth in good ways and heal the environment and have pure water for everybody. This was Slim's mission, and he happened to channel the ring again. And what I teach is that this is rediscovered. We knew this before. Obviously, when you dive deeper into the pyramids, and how there's still pyramids on this plane right now. They're just under the mountains. And but it's so interesting that we've been so lied to about what is actually going on, intentionally told a story that is not true. And that's what pisses me off, is that like people were lying to me, and then I became a liar because lying was accepted in this society. And therefore like my mom and my dad, like they, and not to use them as like, but the way that I was just brought up and things that were accepted in my household that just weren't true because of uh where my mom and dad were at on their spiritual journey. But not to get too far here, is to bring it now back into the ancient future of New Earth. What does that mean to you? And what do you see of where we're at now on, like, say, the true history of what is actually happening on this earth right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. And something that is interesting while you were mentioning all this, it gave me a little flashback to a presentation that I do about the psychedelic mushroom cult of Ireland. The Celtic people were, the Druid class of Celtic people were essentially, what we know as shamans.
Hmm.
They were the magicians and the healers and things. And if you look at some of the historical evidence from that time and from the Celtic people, you'll find something called the torque,
Hmm.
Torc. And I want you guys to look this up because this was it was an artifact that they found. They found many different torques from the Celtic culture, but essentially it was like a copper ring. Now it wasn't a tensor ring. Say now straight up, it was not a tensor ring, but it was a copper piece that came around and it sort of ended here. It wasn't connecting, but it was very clearly copper and they wore it around their neck. Very similar to what you're wearing right now, you know what I mean? So, yeah, of course, the ancients knew all this. They had a deep understanding of, spiritual sciences and magnetism and all of these electromagnetism. Um, and so, how does that apply to the future? What is the ancient future? I see us as the future ancestors,
Hmm.
right? We are the future ancestors. So and essentially the way that I see time is that we're on that end of things, looking back on our life now. Like it's almost a reverse, like learning things backwards almost.
Hmm.
But when we can go into the future and find our future selves, we're actually time travelers, okay? So in the mind, you can use your mind to go back to a place in your life experience that you remember clearly, right? It could even be a traumatic experience. A lot of people have those spiked memories of a trauma in their life. So we use the mind to go back into that space, and people live in their trauma bodies because they just keep reliving that moment over and over again without getting out of that cycle.
Hmm.
So traveling back into the past, into the ancient past, and doing the work to clean up that trauma, the trauma that lives in the body, releasing that, however we get to do that. But going back into the past and using our consciousness as conscious time travelers because we can go into the past, heal that up, and then guess what? We get to use the consciousness to travel into the future.
Hmm.
So just as easily as we can think about what our uncle did to us when we were 12, we can think about what we're going to do in our society 10 years from now. You can imagine and envision exactly who you are in the future. So that same mental capacity or conscious capacity that we have to time travel into the ancient past, we can also travel into the future. So this is part of the work that I offer and I do, is helping people utilize that ability to travel through time in the conscious mind to go into the past first and repair those fragmentations so that we become whole. And in that space of wholeness, then we can use that same capacity to go far beyond. And in that space, envision the tools and the technologies and the things that we will have in the future. Bringing that back now, you collapse the time space and you step into that moment of being your future self in this now moment, and that's where the magic happens. That's where you start making ancient future technologies.
Hmm.
That's where you step into your path of serving humanity.
Oh, brother. Uh, I just want to just to give the listeners something where I know that a lot of us are or were very traumatized. And based on your experience of your own life and also teaching it and guiding people and assisting people through healing experiences, whether it's just with breath work or plant medicine, um, what would you say in your experience is the most potent way that we can actually heal for good that trauma and then now step into that creator consciousness?
100% breath.
Mm,
100% breath work. People make it really complicated and all this, spiritual mumbo jumbo and stuff about healing. And the breath is the master, the breath is the guide, the breath is the healer. Okay. Now, I'm not claiming that just because you know how to breathe, you're going to be able to heal your cancer or you're going to be able to heal your traumatic past. But I'm saying that we can utilize the breath as a tool, just like we can use these tensor technologies and these, ankhs and these pyramids and things. Um, yeah, we can utilize the breath as a tool. And what happens is with the trauma, as I mentioned earlier, we fragment ourselves, because we can't be that part of ourselves. And when that traumatic experience happened, it usually comes with a fragmentation because we split off and leave that part that was traumatized. We leave it behind
mm,
and we leave a part of ourself in the past. So we can't be whole because we're fragmented. So basically, it's really important to be able to utilize the breath and then go into the body with these traumas because that 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 trauma lives in the physical body. We try to use our mind to like figure all this stuff out and run the mental track about how we're going to heal ourselves, but we're not even realizing that the trauma and the fragmentation is in the body. So basically what I do is I guide people with the breath and with intentional conscious visualization to do a body scan,
mm,
going into the body and just scanning like almost like a laser from head to toe, starting at the crown and working your way down and sensing and feeling wherever there is a blockage, a stagnation, or a pain. When you find that pain, you find that blockage, you stop there. You breathe into that pain. You start to connect with it. Instead of pushing it down and burying the trauma, you actually lean into it head first. You face the dragon, like you bring up the traumatic past and then you start to identify it. You start to give it a color. You start to give it a texture. You start to give it a shape, and then you can actually visualize as you're feeling the pain, you can visualize the pain almost as like an entity or a being, you know what I mean? What I do from there with the breath is I guide people into, I call this turning your demons into diamonds.
mm,
And basically what we're doing is finding those challenging traumatic spaces in the body, and then we're sending it love. We're just showering it. Like, where I actually visualize this now, like let's say it's a red furry, um like it's red and furry and it's hot and it's sticky, right? So I will imagine that and visualize that, and then I will take that red, furry, sticky energy and I'll bring it, visualize it outside of my body, and then I send it love from my heart. Literally beam a light of love to this um, stuck energy. And basically, as you do this and you're showering it with your love and your light, you will notice it starts to transform. And you just continue to send that love until this demon has.
Hey, beautiful. My brother's back. Hey, so you're on mute.
Sorry about that, my man. My phone died.
Oh, no worries, brother. All
You,
good.
you know how to edit, though, right?
I know how to edit really well.
All right, cool, cool. Yeah,
Uh,
thanks for staying on, man. I totally wasn't paying attention and phone died, so my
yeah,
bad.
all good, brother. We're just finishing up the that was beautiful. The healing the trauma. If you want to finish that off, or we can move on to a next subject.
Yeah, I think that that's, that's pretty much the ideal is just to, tap into the trauma where it lives in the body and doing a body scan and kind of finding these things for yourself through a physical scan because most of the time we're just like stuffing it down in the body and ignoring it. And it's just like living in the stomach or it's living in, the liver, wherever it lives that's where we start to get the disease and things like that. So this is just a great method and one small somatic practice that can get us into those releases of the trauma. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I have one question. Do you feel that like the emotional trauma can manifest as something like there's a lot of talk about like parasites these days and how parasites are more common than people think they are, and how the Western world is in denial that people have parasites and that it's a thing. Like, in relation to that topic, I know the parasite conversation is pretty wide, but do you feel that these free, like how disease kind of starts at like a higher frequency and it kind of comes down into the physical body as potentially a manifestation of like an actual physical entity called a parasite?
To be honest, it's the way that I see this, and this is just my own personal view. Like I'm, not a professor on parasites or any of these things. It's just what I've researched and what conclusions that I've come to in my own studies and things. But I see it as like actually a low energy field, like a lower frequency, and those higher frequencies, parasites can't exist.
Hmm,
There's high vibrational fields, there's fields that we use for healing, for Reiki and all of that the parasites cannot exist in that, right?
yeah,
So they're actually on a lower energetic field, and like anything that's below you, you have dominion over.
right.
So they're not higher than us. They don't control us. Although we are the host and they live in us, we still they still depend on us.
Hmm,
And so although they can control conscious thoughts in the sense of, hey, I need more sugar. Hey, I need more, like whatever the parasite wants. It's like it's sending those signals to the mind for you to, consume. And so, in that sense, like I feel like parasites are a lower frequency and a lower energy that we have full ability to to utilize our own energy to heal and to eliminate. Now, I will say that there are a certain amount of parasites and certain like things that are going to be living like regardless. Like I think that every human being has some form of some parasite, maybe even some of them are ones that are good for you. You know, I've heard a lot of different talks about, you know, how these things can affect us. But I will say for sure there are negative um, or distorted, if you will, parasites that feed on lower energetic forces like sugar, alcohol,
Totally.
gluten,
What-
meat, you
Right.
know, and they're sending those signals for sure. So, yeah, I think that we have dominion over these things, and when we can get control of them through doing this somatic work, through doing the breath, through doing the cleanses, the herbs, you know, we have a multitude of tools
Totally.
and to attack these parasites, you know. But on the most basic fundamental level, it's you that have to do the work. You got to pick up the sword and go into battle. Like I can't do it for you. I could teach you about this parasite and that parasite, and what they eat and all that. But unless you're picking up the mantle and doing the work, doing the detox and the cleansing, they're going to continue to thrive and live. So, I really, you know, I would recommend finding because there's 108 different protocols and different ways that you can cleanse and detox and kill parasites, all different types of products on the market. I would say pick one, find your protocol, maybe even work with someone who can help guide you through this and really lock in and do the work because just with 2 weeks of cleansing and doing the healing work, you can eliminate these things. And then as long as moving forward, you're not consuming those same things. We even get parasites from like dogs and pets and animals from petting them, you know? So like I don't have pets, like not just because of the parasites, but you know, I just prefer I'm very nomadic and I don't like to have that responsibility. But um, you know, people who do have pets and love dogs and cats and things are more prone to having these parasites because they're just around you and you're petting them, they're in your carpet and all that. So
Especially
the
like
simple
licking your face and stuff.
exactly, yeah. So even this like it's not even always just what we're consuming in the sense of food. It's also, you know, the things that are in an environment that can come get through our skin and things like that.
Hmm. Damn, I love that perspective, brother. I'm in total resonance, and just to share my story for the listeners here is I'm actually currently like every day I'm detoxing. And detoxing is a lifestyle. It's a way
Mm,
of life. It's a style to live. Like for instance, I woke up and like I'm usually fasting until my beloved, she'll make breakfast and she'll ask me like, "Hey, do you want breakfast?" And usually I say no because I tune into my body and I ask my body, "Do you need to eat right now?" And the body's like, nah. And then, but you know, when you fast a lot, like you realize the truth about food, and not everybody's been there, but man, that's a deep one. When you open, when you see the truth of food, like I remember just fasting a little bit and being on the airplane. I think I was coming back from New Mexico and I bought this sandwich and I remember like I couldn't eat the sandwich. Like I just
mm,
had it with me and I was just like, oh man, like I was just because I was learning about like what food was, and I was walking through the airport and seeing like hundreds of these restaurants and how food is such a massive part of our life. And it's actually very triggering to people if you like I've had people like get triggered by me making a statement that like breatharians exist. They're just like, no, there's no way. There's no way that somebody could just live off the breath, right? Like, because we're so programmed with these things. And it's like, no, you can fast. Like, it's good for you. And now I'm happy that it's coming, like, this is ancient knowledge, obviously, but like I'm glad that it's coming out more to the mainstream where even things like fasting is becoming more of like an accepted thing and how it's like very positive to give your body a break. But anyways, just to finish off that cycle there is that like I'm looking, I have a sweet wormwood tea on the stove top right now. And that's a powerful herb. Like the
Yeah.
the sweet wormwood, you know? So I'm drinking that, and obviously I've got my structured water with the rings. Like this in itself is it helping the body detoxify because as we know, like there's this self-healing mechanism built into us, and it's really always going on. And we can amplify it and add to the pace in which our body detoxes and the depth and the capacity to which our body can detox. And one of the things that the rings do is they structure the water, right? So and structured water is it promotes a healthier life and detoxification. So I just want to share that what brother Ankhara and I are talking about here, these tools, like this is within us, right? This that we're built in like as a detoxing mechanism by the creator. But we have all these tools outside of us, whether it's a ring or a key. These are tools for us to assist and to amplify and to support us, never the end all be all. We're always pointing back into the heart space. And I just think it's important to always bring it back to that because we are the harmonizer, right? Like you are the
Mm.
key. Your own consciousness is the key. And whether you get an Ankh from Brother Ankara here, or you get a ring or a harmonizer from myself, like these are secondary to doing the work.
Mm.
Like never depend on something outside of you to free you. You got to go in, like brother's saying here, you got to pick up the sword of truth, and you got to slay those demons that are existing within yourself. And it's a long journey, and it's not easy, right? This is the road less traveled. And it's like everything comes up, and but that's how we evolve, that's how we grow, and that's actually how we expand our heart even more. So man, it's deep. It's deep every day. Like every day's a vision quest for me, which is interesting.
Mm.
Like I just got invited on this vision quest, and I told the bro, I'm like, I'm already on the quest. Like
Mm.
I don't feel like I need to come to this like ceremonial space to go through this vision quest. Like my life is the vision quest. Truly, and it's kind of like that Kabir saying, I think it's Kabir, one of those poets. It's like you could just sit and like in silence for a few days and like go on what are those, like those retreats that people go on where they're looking for themselves. Like if you just sat with yourself, because it's really going on all inside of your mind, it doesn't really matter so much as the external environment. It's like really like how are you going inside and clearing out what is not what is not of this divine love.
Yeah, what's no longer serving you for sure. And you see, you mentioned the vision quest. Most ancient cultures, most indigenous cultures have some type of ceremonial rite or passage that incorporates these things. They're literally ingrained into the culture. So you can see on a vision quest, what do? You go without food, you go without water. No food and no water. So you can go 40 days without food. Food is the least important thing.
Right.
Water, 3, 4 days, maybe you can go without water. So at the end of that 4 days of the vision quest, you're starting to push the limit of, you know, um, like physical health because you're completely dehydrated. and you're
Mm,
just going on the spirit, feeding your cells the water. And then, so you're going without food, you're going without water. All you have is breath.
mm,
You can utilize that breath for prayer and for going within, but you notice in these ceremonies they cut these things out. They cut out the food, they cut out the water, and what it does is it gives you're down to your last resource, which is breath.
mm,
You gotta breathe, you know what I mean? And so um I think that the element of breath is like the most healing and the most fundamental. When it leaves the body, we no longer exist. And so, I think that for your listeners, I really want to say, tap in with the breath, whether it's get with a teacher or a mentor who can teach you breath work, or you go on YouTube and study it, or you just explore on your own, whatever it is. But I really want to suggest that folks tap in with the breath for that healing.
mm. Amazing, bro. Yeah, we're at the hour 20 mark. I usually have been around like an hour and a half I've been aiming for. I wonder maybe we could end the podcast with like a little bit of breath. If you could maybe just like share a transformational piece with us, if you're open. Whether
Yeah.
we actually go through the action or you just kind of teach us so we can bring something along into our day.
Yeah, this is great, man. A practical resource someone can walk away with. Very crucial for sure. So basically, what I want to share with you is actually, so I get these uplinks. People like call them downloads. I call them uplinks. But a lot of times they come to me in the shower,
Mm,
and it's with that water element flowing. A lot of my breath techniques and stuff that I implement have been learned, and also I incorporate breath practices that I've got just through the ethers, just through doing the work myself. And so this came to me the other night, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to visualize an orchid flower, and this could be purple, this could be whatever color you want, but I want you to in this practice of visualization, I want you to think about an orchid, okay? And then so let's close down the eyes and just get centered into ourselves, and just drop into the breath, taking a deep breath into the nose and out through your mouth. Another deep breath into the nose, out through the mouth. And another deep breath in and out. And now we can start to visualize and imagine this purple orchid just in front of us as we continue the breath flowing in and out. And each inhale, as you inhale, I want you to use your hands and waft the air in, and imagine as you're breathing in that effervescent floral aroma of the orchid. Using your hands to waft the air in as you breathe in. And then when you breathe out, giving thanks, giving gratitude back to the flower, sending energy and love to the roots. Breathing in that essence and that floral aroma, and breathing out, sending the energy back down into the roots, into the leaves, into the flower. And breathing in, wafting the air with your hands, Imagining that effervescent scent and exhaling, letting it out, sending love and gratitude back to the flower. One more time here, breathing in that good ass prana and out with gratitude and love. And this is a reciprocal, just how breath is in and out, give and a take. We're breathing in the oxygen from the plants, and when we breathe out, we're breathing the carbon dioxide that the plants need to breathe. Okay? So this reciprocity, this exchange, this flow, that's what we're visualizing. Taking in that essence and that aroma as we breathe in, and then breathing out with that heart essence of gratitude and love for the plant, for the flower, and for all of life. So that's something, just a quick little visualization and breath that you can do as you're tapping in.
Mm, beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing.
Yeah. And I would say get at me if you're looking for someone who, can help guide you through these spaces with the breath. This is just one of many, many different modalities and techniques that we use inside of Entheo Breath, which is my particular brand or flavor of breath work. But I really take you deep into the non-ordinary experience and create a space, a container for you to be able to release those traumas, get that reset that you need, and utilize the breath to totally renew and cleanse the cells so that we can stop living in these trauma bodies. We can stop living in the pain in the past, and we can be in this present moment. When you're breathing, you're not thinking about anything else but now this breath. So that's something that we get to do, is to be conscious of our breath.
Is there any final burning desires that you would like to share and a last message to sum up your message here on earth, and then also how we can find you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would say that my message is just about really going internally and knowing that we have everything that we need. We were born with everything that we need. As you mentioned, there's nothing, I mean, there are tools and things outside of ourselves that we can utilize, but ultimately it's only an external manifestation or outward physicality of what already exists within us. We've been meticulously taught and talked out of what we already know. So really just tapping in with yourself for the answers, okay? Not going to anybody else or going to Google or,
Facts.
there's people with some great information out there, and I would say there's so many ones that we could listen to for advice and for education. Ultimately, it's all within you. So tapping into yourself and knowing that you already know is what you really want to lean into. And then yeah, people can find me on Instagram at Cosmic Keymaker. um I'm Ankara Akeru on Facebook, and you can reach out to me there. Send me a DM, let me know you listen to the podcast and you appreciate this information. And reach out if you want to work with me, whether it's with the breath, with the technologies. I make these phenomenal cosmic keys,
Yeah.
and I customize and build them for you with your specific energetic signature in mind and in heart as I build these tools.
Yeah, I want to mention to the audience here that Brother Ankara and I have actually collabed in the past. We've put the ring in the arch of the Ankh, and it's a beautiful co-creation. It really it's really a perfect placement. So, yeah, maybe we can, get some collabs going. I know that Shilla Jam is coming up in
Yes.
July, and I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna pull up with the conscious hip hop. I'm gonna pull up with the tech, the pyramids, and I'm really looking forward to all of us being in one space together. And I just already feel the power of that gathering. So I look forward
Oh
to
man.
seeing you there.
Ron, bro, shout out to Ron.
Shout
Ron,
out
I
Ron.
love you, man. Big love to Ron for putting this event together. Cause I'm gonna tell you what, this man is in tune and he knows what's going on with, the frequency that we're moving into, and he is bringing all of the right people into this one container called Sheila Jam. And it's going to be very next level. It's going to be very expansive. Like everybody that you want to learn from and their mom is going to be there. So, I'm going to be there. My man's going to be there. Like, New Earth, New Atlantis. I'm sorry. Black Airbender.
Congo,
Uh, bro, if I could even name all of the
free
people, like,
free souls come in, Congo. Uh yeah, there's the lineup is really next level. So yeah, if you guys want to come, like I'm not just saying it either. There's like special moments in life, and this is one of the moments. Shilla Jam. It's in PA. Uh, you know, Brother Gaia's gonna be there. Uh,
ooh,
man, there's some really etheric gems showing up to this one. So uh yeah, Shilla Jam. You can check out Vibe MedX on Instagram or the Modern Mind Explorer. And this is our brother Ron, who is I think one of the biggest Shilajit importers into North America. A lot of us get our Shilajit from brother Ron. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And yeah,
love you, fam.
love you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. I'll see y'all next time. And can't wait to get together at Sheila Jam with the family. So we'll
Oh,
see you guys out there.
it's gonna be great. All right, brother. One love.
One.